"Oh, you're crying," he murmured, still joined with me. "Is it the promotion?" I didn't give him an answer. I just focused on the ceiling panel above his shoulder, the one with a faded yellow stain, as if someone had tried to wash a secret out of the drywall. He didn't bother to wait. He withdrew, fastened his pants, and instinctively reached for his smartwatch. Back to business. Annika. The chill of the conditioned air in the hotel room finally met my skin. That was a relief. So was the quiet that followed the soft click of the door closing behind him. I looked at the pillow he had used, with a deep crease down its center, much like his apology that morning. These budget quarters are brutal. You know that. I was the one who built his budget. I had refined it, piecing it together from the digital ruins they referred to as legacy code, until the system operated more flawlessly than his lucid air. 6 years, 43 deployed modules, 3 chaotic pivots, and a single personal NDA I never put my name on, because he assured me it was merely a formality. And this morning, when I finally asked for a pay increase, he actually laughed, genuinely laughed, while buttoning his trousers. Come on, Annika. You're vital. We all recognize that. But raises, that's a topic for, well, people with a broader vision. He left a smudge of lipstick on my face when he said it. His wife's, some other woman's. I didn't bother to clean it off. Instead, I went to the mini fridge and grabbed the one bottle I had promised myself I would never open again. The code was still mine. The architecture, the digital skeleton they proudly displayed at every single investor presentation, was conceived during the 3 sleepless weeks. I survived on protein bars and the fumes of whiteboard markers in a rented basement suite that smelled of dampness and startup ambitions. They didn't have ownership of that, but another company might be interested, particularly the firm right across the boulevard, especially given that I still possessed the original development sandbox. And the patent. Well, this is where the story gets compelling. The patent was hidden in a forgotten folder on a hard drive named Junk V1 Do Not Erase. I nearly didn't access it. It felt like it might turn to dust if I handled it incorrectly, like an artifact from a past version of me who still had faith in all-nighters, shared accolades, and tech executives who declared things like, "We're a family here." But it was there. U.S. Patent number 10-something-something, filed by A. Kasturi, method for dynamic predictive load distribution in asynchronous modular environments, their prized asset, my creation, and the signature, not from the company, not from the CTO, only mine, because I filed it on my own after a data architecture conference in 2019, where their lead architect passed out drunk on a beanbag and slurred, "Nobody's gonna file anything until Q3. The legal department is a ghost town." I remember just nodding and smiling, then returning home and dedicating my entire Sunday to the USPTO website, while his hangover morphed into a team-wide Slack tirade about unreasonable sprint goals. They never even realized. I kept that secret for years, not as a strategy, but simply because it was forgotten. Life intervened. Burnout. Constant gaslighting in my quarterly assessments. A brief, foolish, near engagement to a DevOps security specialist who once condescendingly asked if I needed help understanding TLS certificates. I had personally written half the encryption module, and now that signature was a blade poised silently at their throats. The question wasn't whether I would use it, but how. Into consultants, advisors, strategic visionaries. It turned out he had been whispering in the ear of a mid-level venture capital firm eager to challenge Zenith's ascent. They cobbled together a monstrous competitor overnight, a clumsy user interface, a hollowed-out backend, and a suspiciously familiar architecture. Far too familiar. Their press release boasted of next-gen load distribution, asserting it was developed from the ground up. It even quoted him, finally, a product that doesn't rely on stolen foundations. Oh, they wanted another war. Fine. This time, I didn't need secret access or leaked documents. I had momentum and a dedicated team, while they struggled through product demos that consistently crashed mid-presentation. Zenith launched EdgeStream, our new platform powered by version 3.0, a complete rewrite, a beast that devoured performance benchmarks for breakfast and spat out charts shaped like a middle finger. We offered early access to their clients, every last one of them. By the end of the month, 8 of their 12 major contracts had discreetly moved over to us. By the end of the quarter, their VC backers withdrew funding. Apparently, strategic visionaries can't thrive without strategy or vision. I finally saw him again at a tech gala. Open bar, overly bright lights, too many cameras. He approached me, no drink in his hand, just that brittle smile he wore like cheap aftershave. "Annika," he said, as if we were old colleagues. "You win?" I tilted my head. This was never a game. He glanced around, seeing the Zenith logo everywhere, on banners, on lanyards, on the main stage. "I made a mistake," he mumbled. "Back then, I should have taken you seriously." I took a sip of my drink. "You didn't make a mistake," he frowned. "You made a decision, and so did I." He had no response to that, but someone behind me did. One of our new engineers, a young woman fresh out of graduate school, had been watching the interaction with wide eyes. She said, loud enough for others to hear, "Hey, Annika, is that the guy who laughed at your raise request?" A few heads turned. The CTO, the former CTO, flinched, then turned and walked away, alone. I didn't watch him go. I had a keynote to give. 10 minutes later, I stood on a stage before 2,000 people and told the story, not of revenge, not even of victory, but of reclamation, of building something that was undeniably yours and watching the world hurry to keep up. Afterwards, someone asked me what advice I would give to women in tech who feel overlooked. I smiled and said, "File the patent, then light the match." I dedicated the following 4 days to quietly reassembling the prototype in a secure container on a borrowed Axiom Cloud account, using a project name that wouldn't trigger their monitoring software. I used a VPN routed through Estonia and changed my laptop's hostname to Epson, a WF7840, every time a Slack notification popped up from the CTO with a thumbs-up emoji or a shared article titled "Inspiring Women in Tech Who Embrace Their Role." My fingers typed with greater speed. By Thursday, I had a functional MVP. By Friday, I had a meeting scheduled with Zenith Innovations, and by Monday, I was no longer Annika Kasturi, Senior Integration Specialist. I was Annika Kasturi, primary patent holder and sole licenser, and Zenith. They were extremely interested. Zenith Innovations didn't hesitate. Their VP of Engineering, a woman named Katya Volkov with platinum blonde hair and no patience for pleasantries, glanced at the patent number, lifted a single eyebrow, and stated, "This is legitimate." I pushed the memory stick across the polished table as if it were radioactive. "Not only legitimate," I replied, "it's still in production. 6 years. They constructed their entire cloud orchestration platform on it." Katya didn't seem impressed. She seemed intrigued. "Original filing? Mine. Evidence of authorship? Time-stamped source code, DevOps records, and the complete original Git commit history." She leaned back in her chair, tapping a stylus against her chin. "You realize this is going to ignite a firestorm?" "They already started it," I said. "They just laughed too loud to notice the first move." She offered a slight smile. How poetic. 10 minutes later, we were signing NDAs dense enough to stop a charging rhino. By the second hour, a licensing deal proposal was waiting in my inbox. And by the 4th hour, their legal team had already identified 12 instances of copyright infringement in the public documentation on my former company's developer blog. But that wasn't the most satisfying part. The most satisfying part occurred that evening when I discreetly uploaded version 2.1 of the engine, cleaned up, optimized, and enhanced with 3 new functionalities Zenith had been desperate to solve for 2 fiscal years. Not open source. No credit given. Wholly proprietary. Entirely mine. And now, theirs as well. I sent a formal licensing notice to my former company the following morning. The subject line read, "Licensing violation and IP infringement review. Action required." The CTO likely didn't even see it until his almond milk flat white had gone cold. But when he did, oh, I imagine he sprayed it all over the product team, because attached to that email, in a high-resolution PDF, was a cover letter signed by me, Annika Kasturi, patent holder, and underneath that, Zenith's official notice. You are currently operating production software in breach of intellectual property rights. Please respond within 48 hours to negotiate licensing terms. Failure to comply will result in legal action and platform-wide takedown notices. I didn't hear the outcry, but I sensed it. Within the next hour, my old Slack credentials were nullified. My calendar was cleared. My work email was inaccessible. But my phone, my personal phone, began to flash like a distress beacon in a hurricane. WTF is this? Call me. Now. Annika, we have to talk. Did you send this? Please tell me you didn't send this. I know you're upset. Let's be logical. And finally, from him, the CTO. You vengeful little witch. You have no clue what you've just done. Oh, but I did. I had finally composed my resignation letter in legal terms. They called it a misunderstanding. The email from their attorney began with, "We believe there has been some confusion regarding the ownership of this codebase." Confusion? Is that what we're calling 6 years of unpaid overtime and manipulated performance reviews these days? I did not respond. Zenith did, with a reply that featured a 14-page appendix of API call logs, Jenkins pipeline histories, and a forensic timeline demonstrating precisely when my code was deployed and who attempted to attach their name to it 6 weeks later. Then Zenith's legal VP delivered the final blow. Your CTO's LinkedIn profile mentions his dynamic load balancer. Annika Kasturi is the sole inventor. Kindly explain how a man with 0 recorded contributions to the project is claiming authorship of a patented process. Silence. And then, a delightful, chaotic, desperate commotion. One of their senior engineers leaked an internal memo to me via cipher mail. It was intended to be confidential, but the subject line was a present. Crisis protocol. Kasturi fallout. The highlights included, deactivate all blog posts referencing Engine Core v1 as in-house IP. Purge Slack messages from 2019 to 2020 concerning code attribution discussions. Cancel CTO's panel appearance at DevCon. Too risky. Legal exploring emergency countersuit, but confidence is low. She has receipts. That last sentence? Yes. I printed it out. I framed it. I hung it above my espresso machine, and that was when the real contest started. A recruiter I vaguely recalled messaging in 2021 suddenly contacted me. "Hey, Annika. Hope you're well. We have an urgent principal engineer opening." This was followed by 3 VC firms inquiring if I was interested in creating a spin-off, and then an anonymous tip was sent to 3 tech blogs about the IP conflict brewing within one of Silicon Valley's most inflated startups. Any guesses who leaked it? Here's a clue. She consumes espresso like it's a combat stimulant and signs her emails K. Volkov, VP, Zenith. 2 days later, Digital Drift published the headline, "Startup Darling Accused of IP Theft by Former Female Engineer. Is it time to rewrite the narrative?" The article featured a side-by-side of me in a hoodie holding a whiteboard marker, and the CTO delivering a keynote in front of my diagram, my arrows, my notes, even my damn typo. Balancer, misspelled as Blancer. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I like it served scalding hot, poured directly onto a quarterly earnings call, which, as it happened, was scheduled for the following Monday, and I had just gained access to something exceptionally fun, their internal metrics dashboard. Let's just say customer retention rates weren't the only figures about to plummet. Monday, 8:59 a.m. I had 3 monitors lit up like a command center. 2 shots of espresso arranged like ammunition, and my cat perched complacently beside me, as if he knew exactly what was about to unfold. Their Q2 earnings call began at 9 o'clock sharp, live-streamed public, accessible to shareholders, reporters, and, most gratifyingly, former employees with grudges. The CEO's voice came through first, artificially cheerful, coated in corporate platitudes. "Good morning, everyone. We're thrilled to report another quarter of innovation and strategic growth." I hit mute. I wasn't there for the speech. I was monitoring the dashboard because over the weekend, one of my former junior colleagues, someone they had let go during their culture restructuring, had discreetly given me access to the system they still hadn't isolated from the network. I had root-level access to their development telemetry server. I didn't have to do anything. I just observed, because Zenith had activated the new system that morning. My engine, version 2.1, was now fully operational on their competitors' infrastructure. Complete rollout, same architecture, superior performance, no licensing issues. And my former company? They were now broadcasting a live stream while their back-end systems began to fail in real time. API latency doubled, then tripled. Login errors skyrocketed. Their analytics dashboard flared up with red alerts. The CTO's voice finally cut through the live stream, strained and hurried. "We are experiencing some temporary issues due to unexpected load. Our teams are currently addressing..." And then it happened. One of their major clients, a massive one, a Fortune 100 giant, had switched platforms, overnight, to Zenith, to my engine, and the final touch. That client posted a tweet at 9:14 a.m., excited to be working with Zenith Innovations. Lower latency, better security, smoother integration. Cheers to clean code. The tweet went viral. Immediately, developers started chiming in with screenshots, benchmarks, and side-by-side comparisons. It was a feeding frenzy. One user posted, "Doesn't this code seem familiar? Pretty sure Annika Kasturi demonstrated this at Innovate Fest in 2019, and all at once, my LinkedIn profile blew up. Connection requests, job offers, articles tagging me as the woman who built the machine and burned the castle. But the best part? Someone, bless their coffee-fueled heart, leaked an internal Slack conversation where the CTO had typed, "Who the hell authorized her patent? Why wasn't this caught? Who filed nothing?" And the reply from their head of legal was a single line, "You told us not to waste time on her. Mick, fucking drop." By 10:12 a.m., their stock had fallen 11%. By 10:48, it was frozen. Trading suspended. By noon, they were trending under the hashtag ticker stolen code startup. And me? I was sitting in a downtown coffee shop, drinking burnt diner coffee with Katya from Zenith, watching the entire spectacle implode on an iPad. She remained silent for a while, just chewing on a pen cap, observing the chaos. Then she turned to me and said, "You know, they're going to come after you." I smiled. They already tried, and now it's my turn. They attempted to cast themselves as the victims. By Tuesday, the CEO was in full damage control mode, perspiring on financial pulse, in a blazer that seemed a size too small, using phrases like miscommunication, legacy contributor, and my personal favorite, "We deeply value our engineers, past and present." Meanwhile, their legal team sent Zenith a cease and desist, as if they hadn't just spent 6 years patching my work onto their executive severance packages. Zenith's reply was a neatly compiled folder, sent to their inbox, titled Compliance Receipts. Inside was a notarized copy of the original patent filing, 3 signed witness statements from former engineers confirming I wrote the engine, screenshots of Jira tickets with my name on every significant milestone, and a recorded Zoom call, time-stamped and transcribed, where the CTO told me, "This isn't about credit, Annika. It's about teamwork." I forwarded that one myself. They didn't reply, not publicly, not legally, but discreetly. They began erasing things. Entire blog posts disappeared. A white paper from their 2021 DevCon presentation was removed. A podcast episode featuring the CTO, boasting about his signature load balancer, was mysteriously replaced with a 404 error page, and then came the first genuine phisher. One of their senior developers resigned, publicly, on LinkedIn. He wrote, "As someone who witnessed Annika carry this project through hell and gaslighting, I can no longer stay silent. I'm done." And just like that, the dominoes began to topple. 4 resignations that week. Investors started asking pointed questions, and then the board made its move. Late on Thursday night, an insider, probably the same overworked HR analyst who used to whisper, "I'm so sorry," to me after every denied promotion, sent me the one screenshot I had dreamed of for years. An email chain. Subject: immediate termination. CTO. Reason: gross negligence, reputational damage, failure to disclose patent conflicts. It was over. He was gone. I read it 5 times, and for the first time in 6 years, I exhaled without trembling. But I wasn't done, because while karma is nice, deliberate design is far better. So I printed the email, rolled it into a scroll, placed it in a gift box, and the next morning, I stood outside his now former office building holding a courier envelope addressed to him. Inside was the termination thread, a printed screenshot of his "We're a family here" Slack message, and a single USB drive, labeled in Sharpie, "You should have given me the raise." I watched from behind the glass as the receptionist let him out. He looked older already, his face slack. His eyes darted around the lobby like a man who knew he had just witnessed his kingdom burn to the ground. Brick by brick, line by stolen line of code, he opened the envelope, read the contents, froze, and then he saw me, just standing there, arms crossed. No smile, no fury, just finished. He mouthed something. I couldn't make it out through the thick glass, but I didn't need to, because some endings don't require sound. They just require a witness. The lawsuit arrived 3 days later, a messy, desperate, theatrical gesture. Their new interim CTO signed off on a 47-page complaint, alleging I had breached proprietary agreements and sabotaged systems with intent to damage. Adorable. They even tried to portray me as a rogue developer who manipulated junior staff into leaking corporate secrets, as if I had entranced half their team with some sort of female empowerment hypnosis. Zenith's legal team took it apart, like a Jenga tower on a seismic fault line. First response: Defendant Kasturi was never under contract for IP transfer. The patent predates all active employment clauses. We suggest you review your own HR records. Second response: should you wish to pursue this matter, we will require a full audit of all code, source control history, and records of all internal communications regarding the patent. The discovery process will be exhaustive. Please confirm your willingness to proceed. Spoiler alert, they weren't willing. By Friday, the lawsuit was quietly withdrawn. No press release, no public comment, just a minor adjustment to their website's footer. The line, "Powered by our proprietary load balancer technology," was gone. Now it simply read, "Built for scale. Cowards." But what followed was superior to revenge. It was rewriting the future. Zenith invested completely. We launched the platform properly this time. A clean build, scalable, secure, faster than anything else available. My name was on the patent, on the product, on the goddamn homepage. And you know what was most surprising? People wanted to work for me, not to endure me, not to interrupt me, not to smile while taking credit for my presentations. They wanted to actually work, to collaborate, to ask questions, to acknowledge ideas. One evening, 2 interns pulled me aside after a marathon sprint. One of them said, "We read about what happened with your old company, the blog posts and the leak." I tensed up, expecting some sort of patronizing apology for the behavior of young men. But the other one continued, "You're the reason we applied here. You showed them they can't just take things from us." I didn't cry, not in that moment. But later, alone in the dark, I looked at that old Epson laptop I had used to reconstruct everything, battered and covered in coffee stains and faded stickers. And I thought, that machine started the fire, but I was the one who lit the match. And the world finally paid attention. But one final detail still troubled me. I hadn't heard the CTO's voice in weeks. Not since the envelope. Not since the showdown through the glass door. Until a week later, when an email appeared in my inbox. No subject line, no salutation. Just a single sentence. You really think this is over? I looked at it and smiled. Not quite. I made one last move. Of course, he did. Men like him don't just vanish. They rebrand.